Hello and welcome to the Face Downs, your source for TCG news and all things Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm Lucas.
I'm Ruben.
And I'm Joe.
And hello, everyone. Thank you. What a year, doll. We're at the end, recording the 12th of December.
Yep.
And so for today's topic, we thought we'd do a little review, a little yearly review, have a little look back at everything that's happened this year, how many Greek alphabets have ruined our lives for this past year.
4.
And kind of analyze some of the releases that have been part of our 2021 year of playing our favorite card game.
Releases, ban lists, anything else we want to talk about that we felt really impacted the game. We're going to skip over the really crap sets quite fast and probably focus on the more interesting stuff, which means we will not be talking very long about the first 2 things on the list. But with that being said, you guys have a good year?
Well, it was a lot of it was inside, but you know.
Yeah, I think it had its highs and lows for me. Like, obviously we had some really cool tournaments at the start of the year. We had some in the middle of the year. We had a few lockdowns. Now we're having some good tournaments again. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to next year though. Hopefully we'll get a bit more in.
Absolutely.
We got to get more.
in.
I felt like
I feel like this last couple of year was like so up and down in terms of like events and how things have gone. I just feel like next year's on the up. And is going to be the way to go. So why not start with what came out at the very beginning of this year?
That's right. And the first thing to come out this year, drum roll, please, was Legendary Duelist Season 2.
Woo, yeah.
Woo! This set was all right. Like, we can talk crap about how the rarities looked bad, the ultra rares, the colored different text, but this did have some good reprints. This was our first Urgent Schedule reprint. I think this was our first...
It's our first Liber reprint,
yeah.
Perfumer reprint, like all of the Legendary Duelist 3 and 4, which, I mean, it's kind of just like the trait with the Legendary Duelist, like kind of deck sets. They just kind of maintain being expensive.
They don't reprint them very often.
Yeah. I don't say there wasn't anything immediately out of this set that I was jumping for, but I think in retrospect, maybe I would have liked to open a bit more because this was the only reprint of Harpy's Featherstorm this year.
As a common.
But apart from that, nothing really too crazy, I'm not going to lie.
No, Urgent Schedule was $10 for a little bit, and now it's $30 again. That's the story of this product. Extremely cool. Ruben, what was next?
So next we had our first core set of the year. Generally, we look to the core sets to be an indicator of what we're expecting to be playing, what it'll be carrying through from the last year, any new strategies. I would say that probably wasn't delivered on in this particular core set.
Blazing Snortex, like
Blazing Neg.
Blazing Neg.
Blazing Dumpster Fires, I think what House of Champs kept talking about it.
I think we actually opened Blazing Vortex on an earlier pod episode. And I got really salty because we pulled like a 50-cent secret.
Yeah.
Which is every single secret except for 2 of them.
Yeah.
So this set wasn't really the one, I'm not going to lie. There are definitely some notable cards. I think really the selling point of this set and the only reason to open this set was a very notable spell card known as Potter's Prosperity. A combo-based...
a
combo-based duality. Yeah. Like, that's kind of something that we just hadn't seen.
Really underselling Warrock Mountain here.
Yeah,
but you're right. We're all going to make the Warrock joke.
Yeah.
Warrocks, I mean, every set of this year, I think we could probably point at a redundant archetype that could not have been printed. This set has about 5.
Several, yep.
It had Springans, it had S-Force, it had...
Warrock,
and then it had support for Armed Dragons. So just real bangers out the gate.
Woo.
Prosperity is like a $200 card, though. Prosperity is nuts. And I feel like more decks should be playing it, but to be honest, the way the format's pairing out right now, it doesn't feel super necessary.
No. I think like your other notable include was your Goddess, but...
Underworld Goddess of the Closed World.
Yeah. I mean, super unique, using one of your opponent's monsters, and then it being unaffected by cards that don't target it.
I actually think Underworld Goddess, and Joe, you can speak on Blazing Vortex in a second. I heard you had some points, but Underworld Goddess, I think we'll see play when we get another link-based deck that doesn't lock you, like Tri-Brigades.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I think that we all saw that Prosperity is the card that everyone chased. It's kind of that card that will maintain its value over time because there won't be a reprint for at least another few months, I'd say, into the new year.
Yeah, it'll be the 2022 tins.
Yeah, so that's a while away. So like people that need it, if there's a deck that comes out that really needs to dig through its cards, like you're gonna need to pick up Prosperity, and they still hold their price point in New Zealand over 100, like about 150 each. So it's definitely one of those big secret rare cards. The one card that I know that Lucas would be dying to talk about, but I'll steal the thunder, is a Tri-Brigade Kit. And
Oh yeah.
the reason I think this card was so successful was because like Tri-Brigade was a bit of a sleeper at the time, and like no one really knew what it was. Like people were just offloading Tri-Brigade bases for little to nothing, and like it soon became evident that that deck was actually insane. And I'll let Lucas talk about that.
Yeah, I played this deck for a while. I actually played it before Babram and before Kit came out. I was a big fan of Tri-Brigade. And what I always felt with Tri-Brigade was there wasn't a critical mass of names. You only played 3 Fractal, 3 Nerval, and like 2 Karas, because Karas was never the best one. And you didn't have the materials to make its own boss monster very easily. You could put 3 things in grave, but never 4. So the deck couldn't really do much. I was just playing the Simorg Bird of Sovereignty, which hilariously became the best thing the deck could do. But Kit really pushed it above and beyond. Giving a Fractal essentially aligned to a 1-card Shureg was massive for the deck, and really pushed it to the, I'd say, tier 2 representation of the Trap, Tri-Brigade, 3 Revolt with Zodiac cards deck before Babram came out. So
Absolutely.
I think Kit out of Blazing Vortex probably has the highest win rate or top conversion of any of these cards, including Prosperity. I don't think it's stronger than Prosperity or even Underworld Goddess, which I do believe in some short future we will see do massive numbers.
Yeah, and I think like one final parting note is this deck can obviously introduce support to like the Genesis Impact archetype Lilla, like Evil Twins that gave us a Lilla Treat, a free extender for the deck. I think this is also kind of the first set where the Starlights didn't make sense. And that was like, and that was a huge crippling thing for it. Like we look at sets like, you know, okay, we can start at the beginning of like Ryra, but you know, towards the end of the last year of like Rise of the Duelist and Phantom Rage, the Starlights in there kind of all made sense.
Yep.
Like even Phantom Rage, you had Ferrigite, Torn Scales, Alpha, Zeus, the Heater Charmer. Whereas this one, it was like Prosperity.
Made sense, like good card. Then it was Trishula was your import Starlight. Yeah.
And then you had Miradora, a
terrible
card that couldn't answer the problem at the time, which was VFD. You had Lilla Treat, which was obviously waifu, you know, that's the gig. And then, what was the
Armed Dragon Thunder level 10?
Oh yeah, the one that Kez just purchased.
The one that's currently $90.
Yeah, that's kind of, that was like, it was such a weird set for Starlights. And I think like that like kind of really hindered it in terms of like opening like capability. Because not only do you have a set that had no value except for something that was so high roll, you also had no high rarity cards to kind of offset any loss.
This was the first set where the Starlights were amiss, because even Ignition Assault, which last year was probably the worst set that came out, had fairly decent picks. It had Lightning Storm, it had Sky Striker Ace Rose, it had
Earth
Charmer. Yeah, like it fit thematically, I guess. This was such a bad set to open. And Ruben, you opened too much of this set.
I've opened far too much.
Ruben was trying to get Pot of Prosperities, and
that did not occur at this moment in time. And that was unfortunate.
I opened about 2 or 3 boxes and I got 2 Prosperity out of my 2 boxes, so I couldn't complain too much.
We'd rub it in. Because we've actually had ridiculously good luck with core sets. I think
everything except this one.
Everything except this one.
This was the hard anomaly for us.
Because me and Ruben live together, we need 6 copies of Staples. So generally when we open a case, we get 3 of each card, and then we have to just buy a second playset. But between us, that generally works out. This set was not kind to us.
No, and it was not a set that required playsets, unfortunately.
All right, Joe, you want to take us to the next event of the year?
Yeah, so the next event wasn't a product. It was the March 11th ban list. And I remember this one quite well because I woke up on a, I believe it was a Saturday or a Sunday morning over here. In the post was my ABC deck. I'd just been playing a bunch of combos with it on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. I really enjoyed the Union carrier lines it had. And yeah, woke up, Union Carrier was gone. So I sold the ABC deck the next day.
It was
For a
a
loss.
Yeah, that was a Thursday. And
Amazing.
what a terrible Thursday for you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So what happened in this ban list?
So we had in the ban section, we had Union Carrier, Utopia Zexal, and VFD. So
Good riddance.
yeah, those were 3 pretty problematic cards.
Funnily, Union Carrier was the last of its breed to get hit because they hit Link Cross, they hit O-Lion, they hit Jet Synchron. This card was always used in like Halka Fibrax combo
Degenerate
setups.
Combos.
Yeah. Obviously, it was also used to put Block Dragon in grave, and then later on in this deck, used to get Eva out of the deck for free searches in Drytron, which is why it got banned, hilariously.
Yeah, because it was equipping Dawn Knight.
Yeah. Not to mention, this card also used to equip Dragon Buster Destruction Sword from the deck, which locked your opponent out of the extra deck, which
was banned.
It was
before this.
It was
occurred.
banned before Union Carrier. It's actually at 3 on this list later on. So, and then what was limited?
I think Union Carrier is definitely one of those cards that like.
Should we talk about
just
Utopic Zexal and VFD as well? Does anyone have any thoughts on those cards?
I mean, they're the same card essentially. Your opponent can't do things.
Yeah.
Utopic Zexal prevents your opponent from activating effects at all. And cards, yeah.
In general.
Cards or effects. And True King of All Calamities, also known as VFD, just prevented an entire attribute, every monster your opponent possessed of the same attribute from activating effects, and they couldn't attack. So, and it was at a point where this was still double VFD Virtual World.
Virtual World being the 3/6/9 deck that could make rank 9s multiple times a turn.
And without cracking a sweat.
Yeah,
there
not
was
even close.
no extension needed. It was just like Cloud Castle did everything for you. You would make your first True King of All Calamities, declare light, force the Nibiru out of your opponent's hand, and then go, great, here's my level 6 that can reborn one from grave. I'll make another Cloud Castle. I'll bring back the same level 9, and I'll make a second one. This was kind of where we saw like the importance of things like the decision points of like Gamma, Droplets, everything like that. The Dark Ruler, like...
It also pushed people into playing trap decks. Like, the only deck you could play that wasn't Virtual World was a trap deck, because you could set your entire hand and be like, yeah, no VFD. So Shadol was quite good in this format. Not to get it out of the way early, saying the S word, but it was.
Zulich was also... This was also a really prominent deck.
Because you get VFD and you're like, okay, I'll wait till that thing runs out of material and then I'll play. But for now, have an Ice Dragon's Prison. Have a good day. That was kind of their game plan.
Yeah.
Moving on to the limited. We had one card, Ben 10.
Ben
Don't
10.
really need to talk about that too much. Triple Ben 10.
It's
and
not once per
Drytron
turn.
It's not even once per turn.
And you've seen Drytron lists now. They can still use this effect 4 times a turn. So imagine if they had 3.
Yeah.
It's just not close. Every time a Drytron player opens Alpha
Ben
plus
10.
Ben 10, you lose the game. Like, there's nothing you can do. And this card just had to be put to 1, I think. It was just too abusable.
It was crazy.
And then Unlimited?
Yep, we had the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword that we spoke about just before. It could have come off because of Union Carrier's gone. It hasn't done anything since, so whatever.
Nope.
Firewall Dragon after its errata, another card that just hasn't done anything since being off.
Still good. It's still a strong card. I think when the Code Talker stuff comes out,
yeah, I mean it has.
Heat Salt will make this pretty.
I'll
valid.
also a little caveat onto that. It didn't become unbanned until April 16th.
Yeah, they wanted to wait for the errata to take effect because they didn't want a week of everyone just playing pre-errata Firewall.
We had Bardiche going from 1 to 3. Yeah, cool. We had Doloran. I mean that's the ice.
Yeah, Doloran, Tiger of the
King.
Ice Barrier.
Yeah. 1 to 3.
Also errated.
Had been errated a long time ago.
No, it was for the structure deck. They errated it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I take that back.
Doloran loops were very prevalent, and that's why it was at 1, and so it was just been errated to hard once per turn.
It can bounce cards on your own field. That's what they had to take away because it was not once per turn, so you could loop. Well, it wasn't a hard once per turn, so you could loop Doloran's bouncing continuous spells like Archfiend's Oath or something to draw your entire deck.
Yeah, it was like Cowboy Loops was mainly what Doloran was used for.
It's like an FTK card, but they needed it for the deck, so that makes sense.
Then we had Ignister Prominence. That is another card that hasn't seen a lot of play. Like, it might do again at some point if like Pendulum get another little boost, but
Did people ever play 3 of this?
No,
It was like
I don't think so.
2. I'm pretty sure you only ever
two
played
of them.
2.
And for lack of
Yeah.
like better stuff, now we have so many good 8s. It feels so
Really
funny that you would want to
wouldn't-
play
yeah.
3 of this.
It was also
Could be
strange.
wild.
Like, this is just like, again, like Pendulum Past. Like, this isn't like it's the ghost of Pendulum Past. Ignis to Prominence is not the card it was back
He's
in
just a removal spell.
2016.
It's just a removal spell. A really good one, but, we have a lot of those.
Yeah.
We have Baron, no one's making Ignis to Prominence.
No.
Then we had.
Then we had,
Argent Chaos Force. Yeah.
Yeah, Argent Chaos Force, FTK card, Zexal being banned was why
Yeah.
this was limited, I believe. Zexal, because this was a card you could add back to your hand if you Xyz summoned a...
6 or higher? 7 or higher?
No, because you could make Utopia, add this back, and then make Zexal by discarding it. That was the whole point.
Oh, okay.
So this card was like a 1-card Zexal in decks that had no business playing Zexal.
You literally play like foolish burial goods to put it to grave.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you just had a card that said your opponent can't play the game. Too unfair. But with Zexal banned, this card is completely unplayable.
And
then-
lastly, we had the
yeah.
biggest change of all throughout the whole entire year: True King's Return.
Oh
from
my
2 to
god.
3.
I could go on for hours about True
crazy.
King's Return, dude. I mean, the amount of True Draco I've had to play against.
Yeah, since its notable decimation at the start of last year. Yeah, crazy.
They
I
pulled it
can't.
back.
Yeah, they really. It's exactly what they needed, and it's just slingshot them to tier 1, and it's
We're gonna
actually
have to-
unbeatable.
We honestly have to do a whole another podcast on that topic. So
Exactly,
we'll just
yeah.
move on.
Yeah, we'll move on.
We'll call it
So much
Diagram
to
to 1
Oops.
improved the deck. That's what it's called. And we will be playing True Draco for the 3v3 upcoming in February, of course.
Yeah, there will be 3 True Draco players. No extra deck also, so it'll be March True Dracos.
Could you
Yeah,
imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it. Anyway,
All right. Moving on.
Lucas.
First reprint set, I guess, of the year, unless you count Legendary Duelist Season 2, which came out in January, is Ghosts from the Past. Ghosts from the Neg, Ghosts from the Trash Fire,
Yeah.
Trash from the Past. God, these sets sucked. The first half of this
Yeah,
year was
first half of the year.
just pure
Bad.
ass. This set introduced a couple new cards. This wasn't just reprints, but compared to Dual Overload last year, it was like, oh my god, nothing. We got Dragunity Remus, which is a discard to search Ravine and then a free summon if you control
Ravine.
Ravine, so a free card. Not bad. Neshadol Genius, which is technically like
semi-usable.
a negate for Shadols in the graveyard, but it's like a bad breakthrough skill. Breakthrough skill. It's like when it's sent to grave, you can negate something, and then on flip,
Unaffected.
make something unaffected.
It's like an eagle booster for the archetype.
I think
It
the
unfortunately hasn't topped this
most-
card.
no. And the most awkward thing about that card is you're going to be summoning an Aqualone with what you're sending. So like you send it, then Aqualone like negates the monster anyway. So you're like, okay, moving
Yeah,
on.
cool. Thanks for that one.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
anything, you want to send like Token Collector with App Cologne because it's a relevant meta staple. So yeah, this feels fairly average. Ghost in the Past, of course, had no good reprints except for Evenly Matched.
Yeah.
And Emergency Teleport, I think, was in here.
Yeah, that was a pretty
Which
good reprint.
It was like 80 cents at the time. Now it's $5.
I mean, and I believe its last printing was like Legendary Collection 5Ds. Like that,
Yeah.
it was not a card that had been reprinted. And then like Hieratic Spheres
Oh yeah.
was a reprint in
That's
that set
true.
as well.
But for the most part, this set was Ghost Rare or Bust. And the only real notable Ghost Rares, because a lot of them were accessible, were Firewall Dragon Errata, the first reprint, have yet in this country to receive. I guess we have gotten the maximum gold ones now. So that was months after this. You had to just buy the Ghost Rare to have the new text. Terrible. And then you had the Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, $150
Not a reprint.
card,
Yep.
reprinted as a $300 card. Awesome. This set sucked.
Yeah, wow.
Anyone want to wax lyrical about how much they hate this set?
I'm looking forward to the next one because it is already proving to look like a lot more worth opening.
That's true.
I think the biggest downfall of this set is that it was 3 packs for $40.
That's a feel bad.
Like,
It's not value, is it?
there's no value in that. And I mean, like, you know, speaking to people, you know, I worked in a card store at the time and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to sell this all on the first day and not sell it ever again because everyone's going to realize how terrible this set is. And well, you know, that did ring to fruition. I think maybe like the nostalgia factor of like, oh my gosh, Ghost Rare Dark Magician potentially keeps it relevant, but at what cost? Like, I don't really.
No.
I'm not really interested.
Casual fans of Yu-Gi-Oh want to open a lot of packs for cheap. I don't know how many people I've sold Rage of Ra to, because you go, oh, it's a box with 36 packs for $100, basically. And it's full of cool stuff that they'll like. The structure decks as well. You know, you get a brick of 40 cards. There's stuff to go through. This was like, oh, it's 3 packs of 5. And to a casual player, they're like, that's no, like, you know, they don't see the value in an ultra rare over a common. To them, it's just how many cards are in it. And every time I told them it was just 3 packs, they're like, oh, I'll just get something else. Like, this is lame.
Yeah. Well, really starting off this first year strong. And it continues. Moving on
still
to...
bad. The first half of this year is in contention for the worst series of Yu-Gi-Oh products ever released in a row, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't... until...
Yeah, you're still scrolling. Yeah, still scrolling.
Keep scrolling. Further.
Keep scrolling.
There is nothing good. And even then, that's just the Megatons, which are already good. The first good set of the year comes out in November for like value, right?
But we're going to get there. So we've got to get through some clunkers. And the next clunker is Ancient Guardians.
Ancient Negians, Ancient Trash. I'm going to keep going.
Trash Guardians.
Ancient.
I really don't think we need to spend too much time on this. It introduced 3 archetypes, Sarctic, Ogdoadic, and Sulfur Cord. It had notable reprints and collector's rares, things like collector's rare Pankratops and Skullmeister. I still need one more collector's rare Skullmeister. Anyone out there, please? Yeah, no, we can move on. There's Reptar support coming in the future, so maybe it'll come back to fruition. I highly doubt it. But you know what? Snakes reign. That's all I've really got to say.
It's disappointing when deck building sets don't have a good deck in them. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, because you look at something like Genesis Impact, there were 2.
There were 2.
Well, it was like one
exactly
with
2.
the guarantee of 2. Like, you know, Live Twins kept getting support. And Joe's just about to talk about it, but like they just kept getting support in every core set. So you were like, okay, maybe this is a good deck build to build. Drytron was obviously tier 1.
Drytron needed like multiple ban list hits.
Yeah.
It's so funny that Drytron never got to be tier 1 in the way that it should have been, because they got hit so fast. Genesis Impact came out like the December of the previous year, and they were like 3 months in, half your stuff's getting limited and banned, buddy. I'm sorry. Like it has to go.
Yeah, they've been
that was wild.
Yeah, pretty much.
But moving on, I think Joe's got our next core set of the year.
So June the 3rd was the next chord set, and that was Lightning Overdrive. And I remember this one as well because we split a case amongst us all at the freebie free.
Yeah, before we were a podcast, we were screwing you guys over.
Yeah.
By taking all the good cards.
You guys over because we came second in the end and took half the case. But anyway.
Yeah, well, what were those polls? I'd love to.
We strategically gave you the bad boxes by chance, it seems. So it all worked out in the end.
It all worked out, yeah. So me, Aiden, and Liam ended up with literally nothing. You guys had everything. But we'll talk about what was in the
4 Diviners, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's one of the good cards in the set, and that was Divine of the Heralds. Jump promo in Japan. That was immediately bought out, speaking to OCG players. And this card still facilitates so much. I believe the sentiment still rings true that once agents come out next year, people will stop thinking of this card as a ritual card. But for now, it's a damn good ritual card.
It's one that you want to like pick a set up just to like be ready for these new decks. Like,
absolutely,
this card reads win the game.
Yeah,
because not only does it say send a fairy from extra deck to graveyard, like Herald of the Arc, to search a ritual. Not only does it dump Entis from the extra deck to just become a spot removal spell on normal summon, it can dump any fairy from main deck to grave as well. This card literally reads win the game if it resolves. And I don't think there's been a lot of decks taking advantage of that. I think Dino had some success with it in Despia.
And World Chalice.
Both decks that have good fairies. World Chalice and Despia, you can just send Eva as well, so you get the Herald of Orange Lights as a hand trap follow-up.
Yeah, it's like you would get you dump the Trias Hierarchia, tribute the Diviner to summon it from grave, and then Diviner, in the case of World Chalice, could summon Lee from deck to search, and then obviously, there was like, you could summon a Despia Tragedy from deck because it's a fairy.
I think it's a 3, isn't it? I don't think you can summon Tragedy.
No, Tragedy's a 1.
It's a 1? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a 1? Okay.
Fact-checking live.
No, it is a 1. You're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, this card reads win the game. It's currently very expensive, and I think it'll just get more expensive.
Yeah.
As more decks are able to use it. I mean, it is like a +2 on legs, so we take those, you know? And it's a tuner, so it's always going to be at least uniquely good. It can make Hulk. It's a 1-card Hulk.
So next up we had Mubeta Fafnir, and that was
Mubeta Fafnir.
Because
this is a custom card.
And all the other stuff. Yeah.
Yep. This is why they had to ban all the Drytron stuff. This card is Lavarval Chain.
Yeah.
With upside.
Yeah, a lot of upside.
Massive. It's got a negate, and no one ever even used it. It's insane.
This card's crazy. It facilitated the access of, obviously, decks were already using things like Herald of Perfection, but this facilitated ultimateness without removing cards off your field. It being a fodder at the end of the combo could turn it into an IP Masquerena. Like, this card did so much, and it literally read as a custom card, like on announcement. I believe we were all looking at this card going, this isn't real. This is someone who wants this to be real. But no, this is real. Probably one of the most powerful Xyz printed this year. I'm not going to lie. I think that this does allow for so much setup. It's ridiculous.
And Xyz are generally the strongest card type right now because of Zeus. So the fact that it's an Xyz as well is just even funnier.
It's crazy. Yeah. Moving on to something that's not as crazy at this moment in time. It would be the Utopia stuff that got in here. So this was a large slew of utopic support. Cards like Ascended Sage, Leo Arms. No, that's the old one.
Rank Up Magic Zexal Force.
Rank Up Magic Zexal Force, Zexal Conscription.
Yep.
Or Construction, whatever it was. And then obviously Ultimate Dragonic Utopia Ray, the Ultimate Dragonic Halberd. So there was just a lot of Utopia stuff. And this is kind of like a precursor to something further on down the line. But it was definitely like, it felt like 50% of the support.
Yep.
And then what comes out later on in this year is the other half. So it's definitely something that it's already seeing a bit of like success and demand. You know, the Ascended Sages were pennies on release, and now they're like a good $8-9 US. So it's something that's just to keep an eye out on. And I think that the strategy is super unique. And again, making Xyz monsters is not bad. We got more releases throughout this year that definitely facilitated the use of a lot of Xyz monsters.
Agreed.
Yeah. The next one I'll talk about is Amazement. So we had a little trap engine come out in the Lightning Overdrive, mainly with the Arlecchino and the, I think it's Horror House and Cycle Coaster.
Cyclo Coaster.
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of played a little bit like an Altergeist thing, in that you could like slap in like a Eldritch deck and stuff. I played it for a little bit, but it kind of just a bit lackluster. It didn't quite have enough.
Yeah, it wasn't crazy. It was a kind of, again, just read too fair. And the biggest issue with the deck is that it relied on equipping the traps to your opponent's cards.
So you couldn't miss chaining.
You'd miss chaining. You'd miss being able to negate monsters' effects if they activated on summon.
You have to be very preemptive and telegraphed with your interaction. You can't like wait and trick your opponent or catch them out at a choke point. They can always kind of play into what they know you have and then go, well, too late, I've already got this and I'm going to just do this and play around it. Whereas Altergeist and Guru, I think,
are reactive.
They take more advantage of immediacy and like floodgates. This deck wasn't amazing at playing floodgates. It could play There Can Be Only One, but I think that's it.
Yeah.
So it has all the hallmarks of a really good control deck, in my opinion. First of all, it doesn't use its extra deck at all. So you get to play all of the really, really good pots that get you card advantage.
And punishment.
Yeah. It has a in-deck win condition because Arlecchino
is 2,500.
Plus the ticket lady, the
Amazement Assistant, Comica.
The guide, has 1,500 attack. So in 2 turns, you win the game with just those 2 monsters. I think that's a really decent clock. And the Arlecchino acted as a removal spell for anything, so you could clear big monsters, which is something that Altergeist always struggled with, is like, you stick a 3,000 attack or defense monster, and unless they have Meluseek, they struggle to out it without like using too many resources. So the deck has everything going for it, but I think Ruben's right. The fact that it must equip, then affect, that little extra gap that allows your opponent to chain things, to interact, it's the difference between like Protocol negating Rescue Cat is something you can chain, right? But setting the Rescue Cat involves, when they summon it, immediately going for the effect, equipping it with Horror House, flipping it face down. It's like you have to be the agent of change When you just have a protocol set, your opponent doesn't have to know about it, and it can come in an unexpected way. You can also, instead of hitting the Rescue Cat, you can hold it for like the graveyard effects of the things they're going to summon off of Rescue Cat. Like that utility is huge. So yeah, it's a little sad to see a deck like this that has so much potential not fulfill it, because Arlecchino is an incredible card.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and then finally to cap it off was more live twin support.
The best one.
The best one.
Mystical Frost draws you a card, so it's one of the better ones.
Mystical Frost drew you a card. I think probably the last thing to put in as like maybe like the notable mention would have been Ruddy Rose Dragon as like kind of just a nice level 10 synchro that we kind of hadn't seen for a bit. Like, not saying like level 10 synchro's always got a lot better later in the year, but this was kind of the first one. Everyone's like, oh, okay, like this isn't a bad level 10.
Yeah, Ruddy Rose Dragon, if you summon it against the right deck, you do win the game.
Yeah.
It just banishes everyone's graveyard. It's like Rest in Peace from Magic the Gathering. If you resolve it against Tri Brigade and they top deck a Tri Brigade, you win the game. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. And then again, this is another set where the Starlights were like just over the place.
They skipped Diviner. Like Blazing Vortex had Prosperity. At least. This one skipped the good cards.
It was like your Starlights were what? Bahalutia, Kissakill Frost.
Yeah.
Your import Starlight was Black Rose Dragon, which made sense because it was a Black Rose theme.
We forgot Scrap Raptor too.
Oh my gosh.
A common.
Yeah, okay.
That was also how this set lost its value, is they made Scrap Raptor, which is an incredible card on the power level of Diviner of the Herald. They made it a common. Why?
Yeah. I mean, I thought it deserved even just an ultra printed, just something.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Everyone thought like, oh, this card is cracked in Dinosaurs. It's also crazy in the Scrap Orcust decks that have been going around. There are Scrap Marketer decks that have been using this card. It effectively it is a free Halka-Fibrax, like Diviner. It's also a Scrap Engine enabler on its own. It's crazy. This card is nuts.
And Bearbrum.
Bearbrum also for Tri Brigade. Yeah, Bearbrum Searching Revolt turned that deck into the tier 1 deck that this set was okay. It was just very meager on value, and as you said, the Starlights were not great.
Yeah, I don't even. What were the other Starlights? I can't remember.
The new Stardust. No, not the new Stardust. That was the next set.
It was Black Rose.
Book of Lunar Eclipse.
Oh
the
my
Book
god,
of Lunar Retrain.
I forgot about that.
Obviously, the Live Twin.
No, not Dark Honest.
Dark Honest was. Oh my god, remember Dark Honest? We've gone on a tangent. We should move on.
Yeah, terrible Starlights, and like cards that were too accessible. Yeah. Like cards, like it had the opposite problem of Blazing Vortex, where like all the necessary cards were at high rarity in Blazing Vortex, or like all the shite cards were high rarity, and then it was like here all the good cards were at low rarity. Like there was no incentive to open Lightning Overdrive once you got your Diviners, because like, well, everything's a common or lower, like everything's common or super.
So at the end of the first,
at the
end of the first 6 months, we were in a format where the best decks were Zodiac Tri Brigade was, I think, the best deck by far. And then the second other good decks were Pure Prank Kids with triple Meow Meow Moo. You had Drytron with Moo Beta, I think, was a high contender. And then you had your usual suspects, your Eldritch Dogmatica invoked variants were
Dragon Link.
Dragon Link was still very good, and Dinosaur was still very good.
Dinosaur was really good.
I'd say those were the best decks of the format. And June 21st was our mid-year ban list. So generally the list that tames the, I would say, past year's decks and moves forward into like the Megaton meta where we all play the new decks. And I think this list was exceptionally good at accomplishing this. This has some really long coming changes, like some stuff people have been asking for every list since 2018. So the first things that happened were they banned Guard Dragon LP.
Yeah, this made sense. I believe this was at the point where Dragons had finally utilized and figured out the combo of Spheres, Hot Red, Savage, Tidying. Yeah. This was that deck.
An unbreakable board with one of every summoning mechanic on it, basically.
And then Striker Dragon, the utility of Rocket Recharger, getting things back for free. That was crazy. So, and then LP, just giving yourself so many good arrows was,
Well, LP ridiculous. Represented the classic recovery play, where you would get to a Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon off of a Spheres if you got Nibiru, which would reborn a card that then makes LP, that then, like you'd basically be able to rebuild your entire board off of your Spheres being outed by Nibiru. So Nibiru did effectively nothing against Dragon Link unless you had Ash Blossom. So LP being banned, and later on in this list as well, on the Dragon Link topic, Striker Dragon being limited, meant that if you disrupted the deck, it wasn't as good at recovering, and they didn't have the follow-up of normal a dragon, make strike a dragon, full combo.
Yeah.
That it did before. So good riddance. This card was a plague of many formats, whether or not it was summoning Amorphages in Pendulums, it was summoning, extenders in Dragon Link. You could get Guru off of it, which is hilarious.
Yeah, at its prime, things like the Rose Dragon stuff.
Yep. This was kind of like a hangover from Link Cross being banned. These Link 1s that ruined formats, or at least made formats really monotype, all kind of need to go. And we see that in every list. They kind of clock some kind of Link 1.
Yeah.
Drident also being one of those.
Crazy. Drident going...
Well, hang on. Joe wants to say something.
Oh, no, that's all right. I was more on the topic of LP. I was just going to say that I remember even back in 2019 playing my Pendulum deck, people were calling for that card to be banned. So it was like...
Yep.
Kind of a very, very long time.
Like I said, you summon Sloth at the end of your combo, and everyone's like, cool.
Yeah.
So you've got...
What do I do?
Appaloosa, Endymion, Jackal King, Sloth.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I remember Ruben, I was playing Heroes, he would make Avramax Sloth, and it's like, so I don't get to attack it. I can't use the extra deck. I can't target Avramax. What do I do? Like, it really locked you out of the game. So LP's been a problem for a long time.
Yeah. And then a card that came back and lived a year.
Yep, not even, it feels like.
Was Zodiac Trident.
The best Link 1 ever printed.
Yeah, the best Link 1 ever printed. This was crazy. Zodiac Trident going was so needed, it wasn't even funny, because Zeus Turbo was also a deck in this format. And making the Zeus Turbo deck go first, they went amazing. Trident set 4 pass.
Yep, it dealt with any kind of floodgate that wasn't there can be only one. So like before you make the Zeus, if you get goes and matched, you just Trident, pop the floodgate. Summon limit, you make Trident, you pop the floodgate. It outed everything so you were able to get to your combo.
Yeah.
And then it's an Xyz monster for Zeus. Yeah. It was a problem. It was a problem back when it was printed. It became a problem when it came unbanned, and here we are a year later after it was released in 2020, and it went.
I don't think I dropped a match with Zodiac Tri Brigade in events when Trident was legal.
No, that was because your inboard was Rugal Revolt Trident.
Yep.
Anything to out it is crazy.
And you would just not use the Revolt. Like Trident, Rugal plus a hand trap usually stopped people. And then it's like, all right, now when you flimsily try to end on like 2 back row, now I'll Revolt. Now I'll Shireg your back row. Then I'll search 2 cards. It was so broken. And then also Trident had combos with Ram to get to like a 1 card, 3 material, like Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops, which some decks were abusing as well. So this card was just a problem. They should never have brought this back. It's the best Link 1 ever printed. 1 Zodiac monster.
1 Zodiac monster. And then limited,
we had
this was a pretty interesting limit as well, because not only did this check some of the current things, it brought back some, I hate to say it, ghosts from the past.
Yeah, we had a limit of the Dinosaur All-Star Miscellaneousaurus, the return of Skullcrobat Joker, the Performer Pal Stratos, that was banned forever, the limit of Striker Dragon, and then the return of Toss favorites Mirage Starlio for Salamangreat and Engage for
Sky Striker, Mobilize, Engage.
The brainworms of Yu-Gi-Oh! As one streamer called another. Engage coming back was always
a joke.
It was like a joke. Everyone would say like, we can bring Engage back. And then there'd be half the community going, No, it would be too good. Even at 1, it would be broken. Right? It is a lot like Maxi, but unlike Maxi, you can put it to 1. Maxi at 1 is not okay, but Engage is... It's better than it being at 3.
Yeah.
3 is a problem. This card's a one-off card till the end of time, in my opinion.
Until they print something better.
Yeah.
Like, that's absolutely the truth. And they won't, because Engage is a +1.
Yeah.
Engage is a +1.
Engage is a +1 at minimum. If you open it and then Kagari it back, it's like a +3. So
yes.
It was... yeah.
Man.
Out of the section of limited cards, the Miscellaneousaurus for me was kind of the one that was like, I don't know. I don't know if I would want to see kind of Dino reign supreme after Scraptor, but I felt like they didn't get enough time to like actually.
They had time. They had 3 years to be top.
Misk came back. It was at 1 at the end of TKDYZ format and was limited that world's list. And then like this, like it coming back meant dinosaurs were crazier than ever. And then you couldn't interact with Scraptor.
I can't think of a New Zealand Yu-Gi-Oh event that dinosaurs didn't come first or second at for like 2 years. I legitimately think they topped every single New Zealand event. And honestly, a lot of countries could probably share that with their local events. This deck wasn't like a YCS threat. It wasn't a Worlds threat, but it was just the most impactful thing you could be doing in a 4-round tournament to a 6-round tournament in every format. Like, oh, I summon UCT, I get past all of your proactive interaction, and then all of your negates are useless. I'll just attack over your entire board, right?
Yeah.
That's like the theory. And Misk made that so much stronger because it's like, oh, you have proactive interaction? Well, guess what? You never did. Because Misk in hand, protect, from nowhere, it wouldn't even have to be searched because you just have 3 of it, would just bypass Imperm, Gamma, Ash, everything.
Yeah.
So unfair. This card needed to be banned.
Yeah.
Or limited, I guess. Limited is
limited is so fine. Because at 1 it's fine. Because you either have to find it or they open it.
The most broken was when your dinosaur opponent would go normal Overraptor, I'll search baby. Because they have Misk. You know, that's when you knew you were screwed. It never mattered.
And I think the most the last thing to talk about on this limited was the return of Mirage Salio. This did bring Salamangreat actually quite back during this format.
Yeah. As I keep saying, it's like the tier 2 deck no one plays. It's really good.
Yeah, Salamangreat saw success immediately after Salio returned. It still lost to the same cards being Nibiru, but at the end of the day, the Stalio really facilitated just so much more setup. Obviously, in its prime, you still as now you still had the access to Dweller lines with the Stalio. It was amazing. I mean, I took this deck to hobbies once it came back to 1, and I won my Yu-Gi-Oh day with it.
You didn't lose a match either.
I was not dropping games with Stalio with Salamangreat once Stalio came back because it was just so cool to see it back. And I think it was also really a huge boon to people who had the deck in the day. You know, we discussed about it in our structure deck of podcast. This was the best budget deck you could have played. So I'm sure the people who had this still lying around were like, I can play again.
And then the other card to come back, Engage. Sky Striker is currently a relevant deck. I don't think necessarily because they have Engage. It is a help. I think they are just the best, as we discussed earlier this morning, Ruben. The best thing you can be doing on top of something else. And we saw that a little bit with Dragoon when I think that a couple of decks were playing that in the YCS Top Cut. And we were like, ugh, like Dragoon and Sky Striker, it uses your EMZ. But people were just like, look, Dragoon plus Widow Anchor, you can win the game off of the back of that. And they're right. Now we have Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, which is like a +5. So, and it.
I agree. It was crazy.
And then moving on to semi-limited, we don't have to spend long on this. Double Iris Magician went from 1 to 2. It means you can search both pendulum graphs in the same turn. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Needed. I don't think you need more than 2 double Iris either. I think it could be at 3. Wouldn't change a thing. And in fact, later on, Konami agreed. And then unlimited, Symbol of Heritage, baby. Lone Fire Blossom is back.
Yeah.
But Soul Charge is still banned, so who cares? Realistically, this changes nothing. It's cool to see it back. I mean, it is technically Premature Burial, with a massive, massive deck building restriction. But it's Premature Burial. You can do it. Interesting, this card never even saw play in the Equip spell deck when it was at 1. That could search it. So it being at 3 just matters very, very little.
So moving on into the second half of the year officially.
This did mess up the format. Obviously, Dragon Link and Dinosaurs went away. Tri Brigade and Drytron persisted as the best decks, and everyone sort of was looking around like, "What's next?" Like we seem to still be playing the Phantom Rage decks. Phantom Knight's still around. We can play that. Virtual World is very much still around. You can play that. And the next set to come out, King's Court, changed nothing.
Yeah.
You want to talk about King's Court, Joe?
Utopic Draco Future was a
Utopic Draco Future.
And a couple of more collector's rares.
Lightning Storm, reprint.
Yeah.
Utopic Draco Future is hilariously not overpowered. It kind of just sits in the realm of, I think, like Borrowload Savage Dragon or Appaloosa as this is pretty good. You make it, you feel good. It negates something. It never controls the game on its own. I guess it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. does come up, but I mean, everyone's playing Imperm and stuff, so it's not unoutable. It's very easy to get past. And that's it. King's Court introduced the Joker Knight archetype, which is the third best Isolde deck of the format. But moving on to the next core set, Joe, you can probably talk a little bit more about this. This has one of your kind of new pet loves in it.
Yeah, so in August the 12th, we saw Dorner Majesty. So that was a big set, like, for me, just because I was hyped up for Despia. We saw Aluba in there, being the main card that I wanted from the set at the time. It wasn't really a chase card, I would say, for most people. Like, most people, I think overall the set, we can all agree, at the time of printing was pretty bad. Like, there wasn't a hell of a lot in there. There was like
it's still bad, yeah.
Type. Yeah,
it
Ready
just
Fusion.
wasn't a lot of value. Like, that's kind of, I think this is like, it's like a three-peat of the year. Like, there wasn't much that was like the crazy value of the set. Like, sure, Aluba was really powerful, as you said, and is the entire core of the branded spells, or Despia as it was mistranslated in the EU. But yeah, this again is another set just thirsty for value.
Like, B Troopers came out as well, which was like another archetype that I played for a little bit, but like obviously that's turned into a disappointment since. But like, I don't know, the only card in there that's like one of those cards where we might look back in the future and say, hey, that's a really good card, is Ready Fusion. Like, there might be something that comes out later on where it gets abused and you need a set of Ready Fusion, and all of a sudden that card from Dorner Majesty that no one cracked is like $100. You know, that's I think the only thing I can see, really.
That deck will be Thunder Dragon if Colossus comes back, in my opinion. That is the deck for Ready Fusion, because it's 3 copies of Titan, and currently the deck can already just use that to make Titan, but they don't have the Colossus to kind of protect it. Because the strength of Colossus Titan is, of course, they're very hard to out, and you don't get to search for an out. Yep. So, yes, Zeus and cards like that exist now that would make it easier to beat the Colossus Titan board. But, you know, Titan can proactively pop cards that would make a Zeus and control the board that way. Not to mention the deck can still play Dimension Shifter, so I could see that being a pretty cool card in the future. It's also like the best tuner extender in the game right now.
Yeah,
it's just free.
Let's
pay 1,000 life points, get a tuner.
Being the other card, come April time when we get the new structure deck, will be another card that people will be rushing around to get.
The new Alistair.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's already reminiscent. That card's like 18 New Zealand dollars now.
Like,
yeah.
That can't be true. I'm live researching this. There's no way that card is that expensive.
They are very expensive, because I think this again suffers a problem with like Blazing Vortex and Lightning Overdrive. Kind of everyone got their cards and they went, no, we're good.
Yeah, you're not wrong. This is a $55 card in near mint. It was always expensive because this set was starved for value. But of course, with the announcement of branded fusion, it's all changed.
Or just like the announcement of like, not even like, yes, that, but even like the more support in Burst of Destiny, it was like, okay, well, this is most likely the deck to have something going forward.
Yeah.
Because you had the things like branded in red, ad libitum. Like, we saw that already have being released in Japan.
I guess hot take, this is the Orcust of this storyline. In the same way that Orcust in the World Legacy storyline was the last thing that got really good.
Yeah.
And they were the villain archetype that ended up getting the crazy, stupid, broken cards right at the end. That's this deck. This is the Orcust. This will be, I mean, I put like the next tier 0 deck in the last video just to kind of get people's attention, but I think this engine, Aluba plus branded fusion, will be the most played thing when it comes out.
And it's already doing numbers in Japan.
It's going to overtake DPE as like the generic. I mean, you can make DPE with it, but it'll overtake that as the generic do a thing plus your deck engine. And Aluba is an incredible Stratos. I mean, that's something that DPE doesn't have. A Stratos for its fusion spell.
Yeah, and the fact that you can like special it off branded opening as well. Like it's you essentially run 6 copies of Aluba in your deck. Like it's going to be an insane.
And 3 copies of branded fusion, so 9 copies of the card you'll search. I mean, it's nuts.
It's crazy. And then finally, you had things like Sunny Snitch, again, more live twin support, kind of preluding the support that was going to be coming out in the next core set. Also, another set that was kind of a clunker for Starlights. Like, okay, Starlight Stardust was pretty cool.
Really backing it up.
But the Starlight shooting Majestic Star Dragon wasn't too good.
Again,
Protecting Spirit.
They skipped Ready Fusion. They skipped Aluba, like the cards that would
Yeah.
be cool Starlights.
And
Like,
it was
come on.
what else was there? It was like Iris Sword Soul, which is cool now. Like, I'd love to see it. I'd love to have an Iris Sword Soul now. But like, again, and then like Lower Geth and then Messiah was kind of
Oh man, Messiah.
Yeah.
Talk about bad pendulum cards.
Yeah. And then I guess moving on from the from this core set, gives us kind of one of the most anticipated products of the year. Definitely something that people look out for every single time. They've been a staple for years, and this is the Megatons. This obviously was a huge reprint of sets from the Ignition Assault all the way to Phantom Rage, including some Genesis Impact as well.
And some structure decks.
And
which was a first time thing.
Very unique. So it included your products from Ignition Assault to Genesis Impact, and then so that was all. So that's for those. It's Ignition Assault, Eternity Code, Rise of the Duelist, Phantom Rage. You had reprints of structure deck cards. That was the Shaddoll and Sacred Beasts. And then you had Genesis Impact, and I don't believe there was any other deck building set reprinted. Yeah.
Secret Slayers.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
Secret
we got
Slayers.
Adamancipator
Apologies.
Researcher.
Adamancipator
Now,
reprints.
every year we get to this point, and we do have to ask the question, was the Megaton ass? Last year, I don't think the Megatons were that good. This year, opinions, thoughts, rating out of 10? What do you guys think?
I'd give them like a 6.5.
Ooh,
I'd probably go
6.5.
7. Yeah, I'd
Maybe
probably
a
go.
7,
That's a pretty good. That's pretty much where I would go.
I was going to go like 8. I reckon these were very good, and I would just pin that right down to Triple Tactics Talent, Nadir Servant, Divine Arsenal, AA Zeus,
Alpha,
the Master of Beasts, the entire Tri-Brigade deck, the entire Virtual World deck, plus things like Adamancipator Researcher. Like, there was just a lot that was out of people's reach that this... I do think the lack of promos keeps it from being a 10. I do think the missed inclusion of Forbidden Droplets and Access Code Talker...
and Lightning Storm.
Well, Lightning Storm got a reprint in King's Court, so that was expected. The miss on those two was devastating, and we're seeing that now with the reprint of Droplet in Brothers of Legend being $150, the reprint of Access Code in Gold already hitting $80, $85. These are not Megaton reprints. For reference, the highest price card in the Megatons is Triple Tactics Talent at $60, a card that was $150 before the printing. So, I guess maybe it is closer to a 7. It's not a knock it out of the park
It's a bit defo. And then obviously this Tin introduced the import of one of the most impactful cards in the OCG, and one of the probably the lowest impact cards this moment in time in the TCG. It was Crosstalk Designator. Obviously, we all scrambled to get our sets because we understood this card is insane. Having purchased it, I have probably used it once in a match, and that would have been in testing alone. I never used it when I took it to an event. But it sits in a really unique space.
You played it in Drytron. You did.
But I never activated it.
That's true. But you did take it to an event.
I did take it to an event with Crossout.
And had you opened it in some hands, it would have been good.
Absolutely. And I think that it sits in a really interesting format, like an interesting time, because right now our format is very diverse and very mid-range, and Crossout is 100% for a combo-centric, combo-tastic format.
Yeah. I stand by what I said about Crossout in its preview. I still don't like what this card represents from a design standpoint. I'm not going to back down on that just because it hasn't been oppressing the format and controlling everything. One of my biggest problems with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the amount of kind of patching holes they have to do to make the format playable. And a card like Called by the Grave previously was, in my opinion, a bad solution to just add a card that was a gotcha for a gotcha, making it so that you just really couldn't interact with combo decks if they drew the Called by. It's like, oh, cool, you drew the Called by. That was such a fun experience. I love that I bothered to side against you because it didn't matter. You drew Called by. Same with Red Reboot, right? Oh, cool, you played Red Reboot. I guess my trap deck loses. Ha. And that was a terrible experience. So Crossout still represents, to me, a design perspective based on uninteractive experiences where you make educated decisions against your opponent's deck, and because they happen to draw a card that outs it, yes, they had to include it in their deck profile. I think Crossout's healthier than Called by for that reason, but because Called by was just a mandatory 3 of in so many decks. It still creates that play experience. So I don't think it's oppressing us. I don't think OCG is upset about Crossout because it prevents them from their least interactive playstyle, that being Max C. it's almost an opposite effect in Japan where it's like, oh, Crossout lets me play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Here, playing Yu-Gi-Oh is a balance of hand traps and on-field presence, and this card does swing that more in the favor of, screw it, just on-field presence. Forget about interacting with your opponent. Just play board breakers. And I mean, we did see that when this card came out. A lot of people switched to board breakers. And while we have been moving back to hand traps, you might say that the fact that people are still heavy on board breakers is because this card exists.
Yep. And it can answer board breakers.
You can't just play 15 hand traps.
No, not anymore. And this can answer board breakers too. You can cross out Dark Rulers, you can cross out Evenly Matched. Like, there's so much it can do. I just don't think right now it's going to be applied. But I think in the future, absolutely.
It's also worse against board breakers because if you play it to stop Nibiru, you can't set it. And that's another huge thing, is Maxi comes down at the start of the combo, Nibiru happens at the end, which means in Japan, it's a lot easier to go, I've drawn a cross out. Attempt to special summon. No Maxi? Cool. End of the turn, I'll set this. Nibiru is not as big of a problem in Japan. So that also could be contributing to its lessened impact. You can't set it as freely in decks that lose to Nibiru.
I think it will definitely be a future card. Like, we've spoken about it so much in the podcast, and
this is the cross out podcast, as we've established ourselves as. And then moving on, I guess, Joe, the last ban list of the year. What happened here?
It's a tiny one.
Yeah, I remember the October ban list because we did our first painful choice together. And we
got everything right.
I just remember, like, we did the painful choice, and then the next day the ban list came out, or on those lines.
It was, I believe, we recorded
before the ban list.
Yes.
We recorded before the ban list, and
talking about the OCG ban list,
the OCG ban, and we went, oh, okay, the ban list won't come out for probably like another week. That Monday it came out,
and then on Tuesday we put out a salty episode.
Yes.
On Tuesday we put out our episode, and then Wednesday we put out the run back, which people loved.
Yeah.
So this was So what happened here?
It wasn't a huge ban list. And I think it didn't really affect everything, but too much anyway. So we'll move on to the ban section. We had one card being Zodiac Barrage. It was a weird hit by Konami.
Putting Zodiac more banned than when they were in 2017, which is crazy.
You must normal summon your Zodiacs, please. We beg of you.
Yeah.
Stop summoning them from the deck and getting a free Zeus. I understand it.
Yeah, I guess it was like, it was a meh hit, like it did a little bit. I think the Trident bit earlier in the year did more. Whatever. I think most people in this ban list were just upset that IO wasn't on the ban list. That's the bit we got the most from it.
People are still asking for it, looking at other people's painful choice style videos that they stole from us. Have been asking for Imperial. I know we invented the idea of a ban list video. It's crazy, but they've been asking for Imperial Order to be banned again, which is funny because it's not showing up as much. Possibly for the same reason that Dragon Link stopped showing up as much, and Salamangreat isn't showing up. People are just really bored of activating IO. I think that, and it's not quite as strong, but it's still an extremely one-sided Vanity's Emptiness style card. So I can see why people still want it banned.
Yeah, so moving on to Limited, we had another hit for Drytron, which has probably been the most hit deck of the year, I'd say. And it was Eva to 1.
Hilarious, yeah.
Yeah.
Eva,
I don't think it did much, really. Like,
no.
I mean,
no.
Like,
the problem with Drytron is that they were the biggest abusers of specific cards this year.
Yeah.
While Tri Brigade was, I think, the best deck throughout the year overall, it's still, I believe, the best deck or second best deck of the format. It never really, I mean, I guess Barrage and Trident do fit in that category, but Drytron used Union Carrier, it used Ben 10, it used Eva, it used Diviner, it uses Herald of Ultimateness, it uses, ritual support cards like Preparation of Rites, like so many cards that over the years have been limited, banned, problematic, or otherwise like badly designed.
Yeah.
It makes sense it's had the most hits.
Yeah, and then finally Prank Kids got a hit, which was kind of a long time coming because that deck was dominating quite a few formats.
I mean, 3 words: 1 card starter.
Yeah,
that's what this deck was.
what they kind of went to go and hit in this list, where they limited Meow Meow Mew to 1.
Their Link 1, surprise, surprise, the Link 1 that needs to be banned. Well, limited in this case.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, I think we talked about it, and there was a few hits that Prank Kids could have received at the and I believe we chose a few different cards, and they ended up going with the Meow Meow. I feel like the deck's still really good. Connor's definitely showing that the deck's still very playable.
Yep, Cheese, TCG, definitely still proving its success. I think the overall call was this one was the fusion spell. It was the fusion spell or the chicken, I think is what or the Link 2. It was the access to the fusion spell. But Konami just went, how about one card starters? We can't have that anymore.
It seems like what they decided was you're allowed to do this combo one time. That was what they decided was, which to be fair is what we were saying with Dodo Doodle Doo and the fusion spell. Similar idea. Let them do the one card starter combo once. And then after that, Prank Kids need to use everything else to come back. But where they've excelled, I think, is in playing things like Thunder Dragon Fusion, like Monster Reborn, World Legacy Succession, Parallel Exceed. They've just found so many ways to find follow-up that aren't just reusing this Meow Meow Moo over and over again. Because before, they just add back one Prank Kid, and you knew next turn they were just going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And finally, there was one more limit, which was Fire Formation Tenki, which is probably, I think, one of the more notable hits for Tri Brigade at the time, because it definitely hindered the consistency of the kind of pure Revolt version. It doesn't matter now because they got Lureless to go alongside them. But
they got 3 more rotors, funnily enough.
Yeah, and I think Tenki going to 1. I mean, I still stand by, I believe, what I said in this episode when we react to this ban list. This won't be forever. No way. I think that they will, in the future, have another Beast Warrior deck they want to sell, and this is just the easiest thing to come back off. Is it a +1 on activation? Absolutely. But how many +1 on activations are still legal and running around?
Meltdown.
Many. So at this point, Tenki wasn't the culprit. Beast Warriors were the culprit. And this was kind of the synergistic. And also, again, this was the ban list right after the Megatons. So they weren't going to hit Tri Brigade directly because it directly inhibits their ability to sell product.
Nor should they. I mean, the Tri Brigades are inherently limited by the fact that only one of them is a free special summon. And it's not even free. You need a discard. Every other Tri Brigade is just either fodder in the graveyard or a normal summon that does something. And we haven't seen a normal summon that does something be limited or banned in what feels like years.
Yeah. Semi-limit section was a bit tasteless,
OCG,
I suppose.
Yeah.
A bit OCG, yeah.
Yeah, Nessie to 2.
Cool. Danger Nessie.
Skullback Joker to 2. Kind of cool for
the 3 next list.
But
guaranteed.
Yeah. And then E-Telly to 2. I mean, it's seen a little bit of change around, but like it hasn't really affected things as much as what we probably discussed back in that podcast.
I think I disagree. I think there's been at least like 2 meta or meta relevant decks that can play E-Telly. So, and I'm not even talking about Virtual World here. I think the Synchro Eldritch deck that's been topping with Sire Reflector like actually is relevant, as well as Phantom Knights, who are obviously the main culprit. But I think E-Telly has like very solidly shown up in a lot of decks and represents essentially another free as heck Halka Fibrax, which we don't need more of because that combo still exists. Auroradon is still legal, and with the introduction of the adventure tokens next year, will be a massive problem. I mean, there aren't many outs to Auroradon if you can't Nibiru, you know? So, E-Telly still sits weirdly to me. It's just like, how is Tenki being limited and E-Telly being semi-limited on the same list?
It's a bit weird, yeah.
It's a wee bit strange. But you know what? That's kind of okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for them to experiment. Like, it's almost cooler if they just went, screw it, E-Telly to 3 immediately. What happens?
Yeah.
Because we're sitting here with it semi-limited, seeing it show up and going, ooh, if it goes to 3, then will it be a problem? You know, we don't know. So, kind of weird.
And finally, in the unlimited section, we had Double Iris Magician. Cool.
You're cool. Moving on.
You only need 2.
Hilariously.
3
is a brick.
Well, like, you don't want to draw 2. Like, you want to basically be cycling through these during your combo with other cards. So, yeah, this is
3's
a strange
fine.
one.
Again, Shadow of Pendulum Magician passed.
Yeah.
There are much more problematic cards on the ban list that would need to come off for this to even have a hint of relevancy.
And then we are through
Then the year got good.
the bad sets. On my birthday came a semi-decent booster box. I'm not even going to call it great. It was just okay. And that is Legendary Duelists 8 Synchro Storm.
Oh, after literally 10 months of agony product-wise,
You could finally realistically pull
money.
$40
Yeah, you could pull something that was two a case.
because you ain't pulling Baron.
Yeah.
That was like insane. But Baron is a
Diffler.
good card.
Yeah.
And the Luralisk support in this set, mwah, chef's kiss.
Incredible.
Every card except for the trap is good.
Yeah.
Even the continuous spell that the meta deck doesn't play. It could. You really could.
And people did. We can discuss it, but Eli came top 4 on Pure, and that's a card he plays because you just draw a card.
If you ever draw 2 cards off of the Bird Sanctuary, you should win the game. as well,
Absolutely.
which is awesome.
I have to kind of laugh a little bit that the best deck that came out of Synchro Storm is an XYZ based strategy. Like,
That's a pretty
You know?
good one, eh?
You're not wrong. They were just like, here's some Xyz. Uh-oh.
Oops, lol.
It
Not a
turns out
synchro deck.
Synchro is weaker than Xyz.
it's like they
so
got
this-
the
yeah,
pepper
that's
shaker
so funny.
and they
That's
dropped
so
the XZs in there.
That's a great one.
I mean, the best thing that came out of Toon Chaos was a Fire Warrior deck. So, they have precedent with messing this up.
And a spell that had chaos in its name. So this obviously introduced Baron de Fleur, not a Fleur archetype, but really just Baron. And then the Luralisk support that was, actually made the deck.
They gave it a win con.
It gave it a win con, it gave it interruption, and it gave it recursion and extension, which is everything it needed. And it's amazing.
It used to lose to, Threatening Roar.
Yes.
It lost to Battle Phase interaction. It was so bad until this came out.
What a set. This I think is, we had a clunker of a legendary duelist being Rage of Ra, and this is right back up to something like Magical Hero.
Yeah. Thank God they brought Short Prints back,
Yeah, love Short Prints. You will always be able to pull Bird Calls and all your Luralisk Ultras because they were not shorted, but Barons, I don't know about that one. And what a set to segue into, because Baron is completely synergized with the final corset of the year. I think probably the best release of the year. I'm happy to discuss that one. This was our final corset of the year, being Burst of Destiny.
Not close. This is the best one.
Yeah,
This
it's the best one
set
so far.
is amazing. I can't believe this was the last set. And what a way to finish the year. Introducing so many new archetypes and strategies. For a few, Sword Soul, an entire deck based on synchro summoning and tokens. Fluanderies, an entire deck based on normal summons. Strategies such as Lord of Heavenly Prison for back row decks giving protection. Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer as one of the best fusion summon targets in the in-game in every deck.
Playing that card.
Live Twins finally getting their payoff in Trouble Sunny, a card that can literally search anything apparently if you live in the US and have the judges rule that undefined values can be used to use Small World.
Small World's the funniest one because it was announced and kind of dismissed by us directly, and now I am playing it in a deck. I still think it's a really average card, but it is a consistency booster. I will give it that for long events. I think it is a really good thing if you just need to draw average.
Yeah.
I think is what it is good at. It's not as good as Pot of Desires or Pot of Prosperity for drawing well, because you do go down one card, but for drawing averagely across a long form event, Small World is crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Searches anything.
I think any deck that runs a lot of hand traps as well can utilize a Small World. But I'm finding in myself and testing certain decks where you really do require 2-card combos. Anything bigger than that, it can be a bit, just bad, I suppose.
I personally think Lyralist Tri-Brigade, it is pushing it. Because you do need discards for Karass. You want extra birds in hand to summon off of bird calls. You don't really want to lose an extra bird in hand, but it does sometimes get you Warbler when you open Cobalt. And I think that's where it's been showing up the most. It's also seeing play in you can play it in Dragonlink, you can play it in Sword Soul, you can play it in Adamancipator. It has seen other uses for finding those really broken cards that get you +4 anyway.
Yeah. What a fabulous set. Incredible Ecclesia, banger Starlights, finally as well.
That we own like 9 of. This is like the first time the floodgate broke.
Yeah.
And we were like, yo, Starlight Stratos, Starlight Ecclesia. Yeah, okay.
Starlight Chixiao, Starlight Snarl. This was,
Zero misses on the Starlights.
Yeah,
What's
Trouble
really
Sunny. Oh, yeah.
Be MPen maybe over Snell, but like apart from that.
Yeah, that's true. MPen should have been the Starlight.
But Impin was the sneak peek promo, so
yeah,
they kind of did give it its own treatment.
They should have flipped that. Snarl should have been the pre-release promo.
Yeah, sure.
But it not that it looks bad. It's just it's the one everyone doesn't play. So it's kind of sad that the Starlight is cut from lists
at this moment in time.
And it could have been Empin, the one that literally every list has to play because it searches your starters and extenders.
It is us also just nitpicking something like because there is this is almost the perfect set. I would say like it capped off all those bad sets and kind of almost redeemed the year. Almost.
Very much. And it felt like, Dawn of Majesty, it was like that was the DLC to the main game that was Burst of Destiny. It almost felt like they almost should have come around the other way, but I'm so happy that it came out the way it did because this was a fabulous set.
And this set also has low rarity stuff in it that is good. We talked about all the high rarity stuff, but if you wanted to play a really budget deck, pick up Magic-Key. It's like $50, and the boss monster is a super rare in this set. He's cracked. He's crazy. He's like 2 interrupts on his own.
Yeah, we're gonna we're dragging them now, but Ice Jades have a really viable strategy coming out in Battle of Chaos, and those Tremoras are very accessible.
They are
a non-once per turn Rhoda. That's a super rare. But again, it's just like so accessible. Things like the Reptilian stuff, we're seeing more reports, some reptile support coming out. So
that Reptilian is a not once per turn make your opponent's attack 0, which if you pair it with Runai's Pendulum Dragon is better Appaloosa.
Yep.
That is technically true.
It's a new FTK that came out as well with the little dog.
That's true, yeah.
You know what's stunning?
Oh, the Machina Ruin Force FTK? Yeah, well, that's not the dog's fault. That's Machina Ruin Force's fault, which is a crazy card and topped several events. Machina topped because they missed out on having a win con besides Citadel, which often blew itself up anyway. And they were like, what if you just had a 4,600 attack point monster that prevented interaction during the battle phase?
And then floated on destruction.
And wasn't once per turn to summon. Oops.
Anyway.
It's a level 10. Oops.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cracker set, best release of the year.
A real synchro cracker, if you will.
Yeah, a real stunning release. And then I think moving on to one of the reprint set that a lot of people do wait for, Joe.
Yeah, it was Maximum Gold.
Controversial rarity.
And I hate gold, but like that's just me. But like the set, if we're just looking at it from like a reprint standpoint, wasn't too bad. It was okay. Yeah. Like it had the access code, and that's the chase card. It had
the Verte, the alternate art IP,
the band card.
Next week. Yeah.
It was. I mean, I've seen a few of these packs being cracked, and my argument to why I think this set's bad is there's just not a lot of value.
Like, well, I think the shortcoming of this one, if you compare it to the previous one, is that the previous one had staples galore. You had Ashes, Bells, Ogres, Lanciers, Drolls, Imperms.
Nibiru? Yeah, Nibiru was in the last one, right?
Nibiru. Yeah. There was Phantasme, everything.
It was like Dual Devastator 2, kind of, the last one.
No, and I think this one as well, I've been watching like people locally open the packs, and like, I mean, I don't even know what the price point exactly is on these, but like, you get 3 packs of them, and it kind of reminds me of Ghost from the Past in the way that you open 3 packs and you don't really feel like you've got value from you know.
It's 4 packs. Yeah. It's 4 packs.
It's 4 packs.
Still not many. Yeah.
Still not many.
Which is funny because the original gold set, you got 1 pack of like 25 cards.
Yes. Yeah.
Where the original sets, I think maybe, I mean, they've never been great, but where the original sets have a bit of an edge is the wider spectrum of reprints they included. And I think what I'm missing from this year in general has been access to, and this is me as an old format fan, but you know, those older format cards, where are we getting reprints for them? I do think we should have gotten, instead of Ghost from the Past, or at least, from what we got in that set, another Yugi's World, another Joey's World, something
Another Legendary Collection 5 dates.
We got the Speed Duel Battle City box, which reprinted Nobleman of Crossout, which was cool. But where is our reprint for Metamorphosis, Tribe Infecting Virus, Ryu Senshi? Cards that people play all the time in GOAT format that I think the nostalgia collectors that are opening Maximum Gold and Ghost from the Past would love. Like, imagine you were cracking packs and it's like, oh, sick, I pulled an Opticlops, I pulled a Wingweaver, like cool old stuff that you just don't see anymore. Which I think the old gold sets had. You had a lot more just random stuff thrown in.
Yeah, and you think of like King's Court, people were like over the moon when they saw Gravekeeper's Spy get reprinted.
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
that was
that's
huge.
So cool because
at Rare.
At Rare, you had things like Pot of Duality. It's like, yeah, that's a card that just hadn't been reprinted in like a good 2 years.
And like Eldorado had Upstart Goblin in it, which is a much needed reprint, but it just didn't have anything beyond that. And even with these gold rares.
Well, but even then.
Well, that's not, but that's also a newer card. I think my point is that they should be doing, if they're going to fill these sets with chaff that isn't worth anything, they should fill it with chaff that is also hard to find. Because I hate pulling like recent printed staples at a bad rarity from a set that I paid $60 for 4 packs. Like, it sucks.
Yeah.
I think there's like 2 versions of Firewall Dragon in here.
At Rare. Gold Rare,
it's just like, ew, like I don't need that.
Yeah.
I've got the ulti.
the one thing I would say that's good about the set is it made like Prank Kids and Eldritch really, really budget and affordable.
That's true.
I mean, they were already semi-budget affordable, but like it just
Eldlands were still expensive.
Eldlands were like $60, yeah. And Prank Kids had their expensive short prints like Place, like Chicken, Dodo Doodle. So this was nice, yeah.
And like all the Prank Kids are like jumped up to like $5 each because they were just like super rares from a deck building set from 3 years ago, like just not touched. We can see like you can literally chuck $40 at Prank Kids and do all right. Come first, beat Striker.
Turns out Pancratops is a really good card to draw, and so is Terratop. Not to shade Connor, his deck was really good.
It was very good.
He drew really cracked. It was insane.
And then wrapping up the year. A set that we still do not have in New Zealand.
Unfortunately.
Is
Brothers of Legend. The Legend set of the year. And it feels late. I don't know why. It feels like Legend sets always come out way, way at the end. This one even feels later than like Heroes Revenge. I don't remember it being December when we got that.
Armageddon was, I believe, September. I believe Heroes Revenge was like before Worlds in 2019. Like
that's right, because they didn't have the cards for Worlds. Like they couldn't play Vision Heroes or Mirage.
Or Lambda or the BLS Link.
This is interesting because it coming out way at the end of the year and with Grand Creators on the horizon feels very kind of afterthought for how important these two sets are going to be. There's a ton of stuff in this that kind of adds to or extends current strategies. Off the top of my head, we got Wing Requital, and Bird Strike that could potentially see play in Lyrillist decks. Bird Strike itself being searchable and is kind of like a Dark Ruler no more. You have the entire Utopia Structure deck, which I was going to say during the Leov thing is hilarious because you don't play any of the Leov cards anymore. This deck just invalidates almost all of them. I think
like Ascended Sage is the only one.
You play Ascended Sage, you say one copy of Pegasus Twin Saber, but like nothing else because this Brothers of Legend support is cracked. You have a rank 4 that summons from the deck. You have 2 new boss monsters, and a better rank up magic spell than Zexal Force in Leov. So hilariously, none of that stuff is relevant besides Ascended Sage because it searches the new rank up magic. You have Altergeist Puquiri, which is
far overdue to become here. We still don't have all that new support as well. We never the set doesn't have Altergeist Failover. But wow,
it unfortunately does not make Altergeist better. It makes them turn 1 Hextia viable. And it can chain block your Meluseek, but it doesn't like introduce the next form of Altergeist.
No,
not
at all.
It came out a little too late. I think Altergeist had a really good moment last year as one of the dominant control decks. I think now it's a little bit power crept. It can't really effectively use Lord of the Heavenly Prison as well as other decks because of Multifaker locking you out of summoning. Not that you always want to summon Heavenly Prison, but it's nice to have the option and not to conflict with your own engine.
Well, and also Lord of the Heavenly Prison is like a time sensitive +1. Multifaker is just a +1.
So like Lord of the Heavenly Prison in other decks is setting cards like Fusion Destiny. It's setting cards like Pot of Extravagance for massive plus. In Altergeist, it can set spoofing, but at the cost of using Multifaker that turn. It's tough. So unfortunately, yeah, I think it's come a little bit late for where trap decks have evolved to.
Yeah.
But it's a welcome add. And then reprints, we have Forbidden Droplet,
Not a reprint.
$150. Moving on. Reprints from LED6 have come down. They are like $60 to $70, which was lower than the $150, $200 they were at.
They're even lower now because of Season 3's announcement.
Which, yes, they announced Legendary Duelist Season 3 kind of cynically right after this set came out. So people scrambled to pre-order at like $100 for a Dusted Gold and then kind of got screwed by the fact that it's getting another reprint.
Yeah.
And Starlight Dragoon.
Yeah, this will obviously segue into our discussion next week, where we will be doing our painful choice. As a preface to that podcast, we are expecting an OCG ban list to be coming out within the next week. Whether that is an indication of what's happening here or not, we don't know. The OCG obviously have far more problems than we do. Most notably, the engines used as the Brave tokens, or the Adventurer tokens as they are known in the TCG, as well as Fusion Destiny. So it's quite likely that those bans, if they were to occur, wouldn't translate over. And I think for us, seeing a Starlight Dragoon just kind of solidified it's not getting banned, and that potentially another card related to the summoning of fusion monsters may see the chopping block if it was to occur. Because for reference also, Dragoon is banned in the OCG. You don't see it because it's not legal.
Yeah. One of them was printed in Starlight, and the other one was printed in gold.
Wink, wink.
Take from that what you will, everybody. Yeah, maybe they won't ban either of them. I'm not at liberty to say, because I'm not on time for Painful Choice. Do not contact me with ban lists. I am, I'm only on the clock, baby. I don't, I don't do this for fun.
Yeah.
Just doing it for that sick paycheck every month. Am I right, guys?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God, this thing's so lucrative. I can't
crazy
even list the amount of things that I've purchased with money from this podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, I think overall, Brothers of Legend, a welcome set. I don't think it's game breaking. I don't think it's meta warping. I think its inclusions are really unique. And I think that going forward, as always, you will look back at this by next year and go, man, this was a good set. Why don't we get more of it? But at this moment in time, it's not really.
It's nice to see a foily set. Yeah. I'm sad that they changed deck building sets to have rares and ultras. I miss the all foily sets, because this is where you get like reprints of cards that you need and they look nice. Secret Slayers had Upstart Goblin, Solemn Judgment. It had really nice
amazing
super rares, and getting them in rare and King's Court just doesn't feel the same.
No.
It's so lame. So getting a set that's like, oh, Downer Magician's in here. It's an ultra. Nice.
Yeah,
like
Beatrice is no longer gold.
It's a feel good. I love it. So happy about that. I'm happy they've kept up the lineage of having these be all foil.
I think
that's the year.
As far as product goes for the year, and I think we can talk about this one card.
It sucked bad.
But I'm talking, as far as reprints go, I feel like Droplet is the one that was neglected the most, and it's been the card it is right now, and like I believe card of the format at the moment. It's hard to see like these budget players, like people. It's not even budget players. Like a lot of people don't want to spend $300 on a set of free cards. Like that's a lot of money. Like, and I just wish it just saw a reprint that brought it down to like triple tactics level, where you still have to spend
$60. Yeah,
but it's not that $120 card. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but yeah.
It is crazy. And I mean, like, we did skip over structured decks this year because they were not good.
We totally forgot to talk about the Freezing Chains.
Because like Freezing Chains did introduce nothing. The Egyptian gods were starter decks by definition. And they really only reprinted Harpy's Feather Duster. And the Cyber Strike structure deck only reprinted impermanence. This was not a year for structure decks. And I don't think, like, last year was a year for structure decks. This year was not.
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem, is that like that's where you see these reprints most of the time, and it's unfortunate that those products were not in tandem. What's your controversial opinion?
Controversial opinion is the fact that this year had a lot of lackluster releases part of the reason this format is so much fun?
Probably.
Because looking at the first 6 months of sets, nothing Because when we talk about like good releases like Burst of Destiny, it's because they're full of really, really stupidly powerful cards that are fun to play with. But those kind of sets back to back to back to back are how we got Adamancipator Synchro Eldritch format. Having Secret Slayers right after Eternity Code, right after Dual Overload. 3 incredibly high-powered sets full of fun tools that ended up being the most homogenous and boring format. The fact that all the sets this year have been really mid has been kind of cool. Like, lowered power level. Yeah. Generally, I think decks are weaker than they were 2 years ago.
I think Konami has always had a bit of a pattern with like core sets where there is always the one core set that kind of defines the year. Like if you go back in time, you can probably pick out a core set each year, with the other ones being more like the DLC, like we said. I just feel like this year it's been amplified a lot more.
Yeah.
Burst is just so much better than all the other sets that it's ridiculous. But so yeah, I think I agree with you there. Like the current format we're in is super fun. It's gonna be hard to like pick the ban list coming up. It's the fact it's a January ban list and it's the first one kind of, I'm not gonna say we're out of COVID, but like it's the first one where in-player tournaments are now more in full swing than they were.
I think the huge thing is that there is a YCS happening in January.
Yes. Yeah, that's
a real life YCS. That's going to be huge for whether or not Konami decides they need to nuke the format or not.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, there's a remote to YCS going on right now. So
that's true.
There's events going on as we speak that'll help be indicative of what's to come in the coming formats. I'm going to do a fun little thing. I want everyone on 3 to say the best product of the year, because I have a very strong feeling we're all going to say the same answer. So 1, 2, 3. Burst of Destiny.
You knew we were going to do that as well.
It's
obviously Burst of Destiny.
Burst of Destiny, hands down.
Yeah.
The best set of the year, and like the hallmark for good sets.
Another fun thing, you have to give us the answer to last week's ruling question.
I do, yeah. So obviously, I did ask the question last time. So the answer in occasion.
You want to read the question again?
I'll ask a question.
You have to read the whole thing.
So the answer was player A controls Mech Knight Avram with a current attack of 4,400 in attack position and a double-edged sword equipped to this Mech Knight Avram.
Which says both players take battle damage from battles involving this card and against 2,000 attack.
Yeah, and then player B controls Mystery Shell Dragon in defense mode with 2 equipped spells, Rod of the Mind's Eye and Big Bang Shot, which are both equipped to the player A's Avram. How much battle damage would each player take if player A's Avram attacked player B's Mystery Shell Dragon?
And to those who did homework, Rod of the Mind's Eye says any damage dealt by the monster equipped with this card becomes 1,000.
To your opponent.
Exactly. So it's equipped to Avram, so it's obviously meant to make Avram deal 1,000. And then Big Bang Shot gives a monster piercing and 400 attack.
Yeah.
What is the answer?
So in this situation, player A, the controller of the Avram, will take 1,000 points of damage, and player B, controlling the defense position Mystery Shell Dragon, will take 4,400 points of damage.
So, because of Rod of the Mind's Eye, why is this not both players take 1,000 points of damage?
Because Rod of the Mind's Eye is seeing the opponent is taking 4,400 points of battle damage.
That is the first thing that happens because of piercing.
Yeah. And Rod of the Mind's Eye will then substitute the damage that the opponent would take, which is the controller of the Avram, to 1,000. And as there is no effect that prevents the opponent, the player that controls the Mystery Shell Dragon defense mode to take a different amount of battle damage, they will take the full 4,400, which is a Avram equipped with Big Bang Shot and double-edged sword.
So what this illustrates is how simultaneous replacement effects are treated in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
And there is a meta-relevant instance for this. It is Lyrilisk Assembled Nightingale's effect in relation to Lyrilisk Recital Starling, making both players take battle damage.
Recital? I'm just going, yeah.
Both players take the battle damage from attacks involving Recital Starling. Assembled Nightingale says you, the player, cannot take battle damage. And this happened to me. I attacked into my opponent's monster, and he said, since you're not taking battle damage, and Recital says both players take the battle damage, I don't take any battle damage. Because of the way simultaneous replacement effects work, and I don't know the nitty-gritty of how they are layered in terms of like which one takes precedent, you can have instances like this where one person and the other person experience a simultaneous replacement effect differently.
Yes.
Isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! Fun, everybody? I love this game. Woo! Anyway, that was our fun ruling question.
Yeah.
Someone will get that. Honestly, if that's just for us, that's just for us. That's the rulings question for this week. Ruben, do you have another one?
No, I'll do one for the painful choice because I think it will be
Sweet.
relevant for the next one. So yeah, next episode we'll be discussing our painful choice.
If you have, this is a fun thing we can do as well. If you have a painful choice of your own and you would like to send it in to thefacedowns@gmail.com, that's thefacedowns@gmail.com, we will read it on the episode.
Yeah, or leave a comment down below.
For reference, a painful choice is 5 changes to the ban list with 1 change that is radically going to shake up the format. That is a discussion point, but you have to make 5 realistic. Oh my God. 5 realistic. Do you hear that?
Yes, of course we did.
Stunning. 5 realistic changes to the ban list, and we will read them.
And then you have the snatch steal, which is
that's the one radical change.
So you make 5 changes that you would pick. We will pick 1 to apply, and then you have the snatch steal, which is something that is currently banned or otherwise on the ban list.
It could be not TCG legal. You could pick Victory Dragon if you really wanted to.
If you want to go ham and bring it back to 1 and give us good reason.
Yep.
Or a bad reason. Or a bad reason.
It can be a bad reason.
It could be a terrible reason.
The snatch deal is allowed to be silly.
Yes.
But send those into thefacedowns@gmail.com. Comment in our Discord, which is linked somewhere. And you can also leave a comment
below.
Leave a comment on Facebook. DM me personally. I'll take anything.
Yeah, and anything, I mean, I will also be taking Starlights. I really need to finish some playsets,
if you want to send us some Starlights as well, we'll do a mail episode. That sounds fun.
That does sound super cool. But yeah, so this was our year in review. Overall, started out real slow. Some pseudo good ban lists. And then ending the year strong with a lot to look forward to coming into the new year.
Connor asking us to shout out his Jank Kids. We did. Shout out to Connor's Jank Kids.
Yep, they beat me, so that's fine. And my deck was not jank, it was just packs. And yeah, so all in all, final thoughts, let's go. What's the one product you're looking forward to next year, Joe?
The structure deck.
Alba Strike. Lovely. Yep. Lucas.
GX Speed Dual Box.
Great choice.
Gonna be banging, I'm telling you.
For me, Legendary Duelist 9. I would like my Marincess cards.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
All right. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. As always, please feel free to follow us on your preferred podcasting app. Leave a comment below, like and subscribe. It always does help.
Subscribe.
Please feel free to contact us, which is thefacedowns@gmail.com for questions, concerns, queries, and ruling questions. As well as your painful choice, which we may be reading on the next episode.
If it's always, trash, we won't.
Yeah, if it's just 5 lines that say Orcust Harp Horror, I'll be less
If it's
inclined.
just dang long 5 times, okay, maybe we'll do that one. But
listen, I'll take a ding along 5 times if you know what I mean. Yeah. But
I hear there's 9 pillars you'd have to
9 pillars.
get around first. You know what I'm saying? God, we're terrible.
That's crazy. But as always, thank you so much for listening. I'm Ruben.
And I'm Lucas.
And I'm Joe.
And you've been listening to
The Face Downs.
Did it.
All right.
He's a real boy now.
You're a real Face Down member.